Hi, my name is Jessica Stern. I'm an assistant professor of psychological science at Pomona College. I specialize in research about child development and relationships. Today we're going to be talking about difficult relationships. This is Office Hours. So the first question is, why are difficult relationships so common? And the most recent research on this question shows that about 30% of people report having at least one difficult person within their social network. So why are these relationships so common? Because we're human, and that entails two things. First, human beings are a uniquely social species. We collaborate to forage, hunt, wage war, and raise children. In fact, anthropologists like Michael Tomasello and Sarah Blaffer-Hrdy have argued that this type of cooperative relationality drove a lot of human evolution. Biologically, we are hardwired for relationships. But second, humans are uniquely diverse in their social behavior, much more so than our closest primate relatives, chimps and bonobos. We have different cultural norms, divergent ways of thinking and communicating, different neurobiology, or the ways that our brains work, diverse relationship histories and life experiences, all of which shape different expectations and behaviors that color our social interactions. That diversity is rich and beautiful, but when those differences rub up against each other, they tend to spark conflict. What this means practically is that our relationships with family, friends, and members of our community can be sources of intense emotion. If our social bonds feel existential, it's because they are. Relationships are foundational for our physical and mental health. But there will always be these differences between us and even our closest people. We're also living in a time that makes relationships harder. Increasing political divisiveness, social isolation, the rise of AI chatbots, and time spent online rather than in person have atrophied our ability to communicate with each other and negotiate conflict effectively. But the good news, in my view, is that as humans, we're always capable of building and rebuilding those relational skills. The second question is, what is insecure attachment and how does it impact relationships? Attachment style is basically a person's pattern of thinking, feeling, and behaving in close relationships. It develops out of our earliest experiences with our parents, but it can change and grow as our social environment changes. Insecure attachment is basically a lack of confidence that other people will be there for you when you most need them. In adulthood, this can take two main forms: avoidant and anxious attachment. People with an avoidant attachment style have trouble trusting other people. They're uncomfortable with closeness and vulnerability, so they tend to be very self-reliant and emotionally distant, kind of keeping people at arm's length. In romantic relationships, for instance, avoidant people tend to struggle with intimacy and commitment, and they often stonewall or shut out their partners when conflicts get heated. The other style is anxious attachment, where people worry a lot about their close relationships. Is this person gonna leave me? Does this person care as much about me as I care about them? While avoidant folks tend to suppress or shut down their emotions, anxious people tend to ramp them up. In romantic relationships, anxiously attached people often struggle with self-worth and autonomy, and they might come across as needy. In conflict, they're more likely to escalate things and become angry. So it's easy to see how these patterns of insecure attachment might contribute to difficult relationships. The next question is, what is one skill I can develop to help in a difficult relationship? Empathy is a superpower. When psychologists use the word empathy, we're referring to both cognitive empathy, which means the ability to take others' perspectives and understand their experience, and emotional empathy, or resonating with the other person's emotions while staying reasonably calm and focused on the other person rather than on our own distress. Cognitive empathy is really helpful because it allows us to see where another person is coming from, even if we don't remotely share their view. People with high levels of cognitive empathy are better able to manage conflict and communicate effectively because they understand the other party's needs, emotions, and motivations. Emotional empathy can also be helpful because if I share some part of your grief or suffering, I'm more motivated to act in ways that support your well-being. In a difficult relationship, that might prevent me from escalating, bullying, or hurling insults at you, but it also might facilitate my showing compassion and concern for your welfare, and maybe working toward a mutually agreeable solution to the problem at hand. The next question, how can I stay calm when tensions rise? This is the million-dollar question. Tension and strong emotions are at the core of what makes relationships hard. I'll focus on 3 research-based strategies that you can try. Number 1 is take a break. Relationship researchers John and Julie Gottman found that taking just a 20-minute break during a conflict helps reduce physiological stress and prevent escalation. Number 2 is move your body. Exercise, especially jogging, dancing, or yoga, has actually been shown to reduce stress and anxiety, sometimes just as much as medication. So movement before or after a difficult interaction can help work out the tension, very literally. Number 3, reframe the situation. Cognitive reappraisal involves changing the way you interpret a situation or what your goals are within it. So instead of trying to fix a difficult family member, for example, you could focus on appreciating the limited time you have with them. There's research by James Gross that shows that reappraisal helps the brain regulate emotion before it escalates. The last question is, how can I improve the quality of my relationships? Even in the most seemingly intractable situations, we do have agency to improve our relationships. But ultimately, we only have power over our own part in the dance. We can't control other people's behavior, which is sometimes hard to accept. So focusing on what we do have the power to change, and assuming this is a relationship that you value and want to stay in, researchers have shown that there are a few things that we can do that reliably improve the quality of our relationships, like showing genuine curiosity in the other person's point of view and listening actively, taking responsibility for our part in a negative interaction rather than getting defensive, giving clear feedback about specific behaviors that were helpful and harmful without making it a personal attack, setting reasonable boundaries around your time, physical space, material or financial resources, and emotional well-being, keeping in mind that it's your job to communicate those boundaries and give feedback when someone oversteps. And lastly, when there's something really good happening in a relationship, showing gratitude goes a long way to reinforce the good stuff and to remind yourself that the relationship is worth fighting for.